The 662nd edition of the Four Corners podcast starts right now.
This is the Four Corners podcast.
Elton ready on his second attempt. That one is no good. They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He scores. 17 seconds left. And he was fouled. Here we go. Lawson with a runner. No. The rebound. Hansbrough at the gun. Got it.
They were 4 for 24.
Hansbrough on a switch on Paulus. A deep three. And Green rips down the rebound in traffic. 4-on-1.
What a great job. What a terrific job in transition. I mean, you couldn't plan that any better as a coach.
Tipped away by Johnson. It's loose. Page. Johnson.
Oh, they're dancing in the aisles. They're high-fiving. They're celebrating. They're going bananas on Franklin Street.
Pass to Britt, 15 seconds to play. Up high to Page, gets a screen from Meeks. Page driving in on the left, high off the glass for two. Louisville with 7 seconds. Jones has it, goes left corner, Black's here for three. Back iron, 1 second to play, stick up, no! Carolina wins it! The Tar Heels win it! 72-71. 6 seconds to go. Pinson comes front court. Pinson to May for the win. Got it! Luke May! He got it! 0.3 of a second! Luke May gives Carolina the 75-73 lead. Are you kidding me?
Inside 30 overall. Love, top of the key. Oh! Big time delivery.
Here are your hosts, Josh Marlowe and Anthony Pagnotta.
Hello and welcome into another edition of the Four Corners podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services. Josh here with you guys on a Friday, here to recap Hubert Davis's press conference that he held yesterday at the Smith Center ahead of tomorrow night's all-important rivalry matchup with the Duke Blue Devils. We previewed the game last night officially. If you missed that, go back and check out our preview. As the greatest rivalry in sports is ready to renew itself. And today, as we continue our Duke coverage, we will recap Hubert's presser like we do every time he meets with the media. But this one a little bit different, as the majority of the questions, they centered on the matchup with the Duke Blue Devils. Before we get to that, though, we start every edition of the pod, as we always do, with the pod thought of the day. And we keep the anti-Duke spirit going, and today's pod thought of the day is simply Duke sucks. So yesterday it was go to hell Duke. Today it is Duke sucks, as we inch closer and closer to this rivalry, getting ready to write its latest chapter. The first of two matchups coming your way tomorrow at the Dean Dome in Chapel Hill, where Carolina will look to remain undefeated. With that, let's go ahead and get right into this press conference recap. Hubert met with the media for about 15, 16 minutes on Thursday in the bowels of the Smith Center. I pulled 8 audio cuts from what he had to say with his time from the media. And we'll start with him addressing the media coverage that goes into this game. And he made it known, our preparation, our approach for this game is the same as it is for every game. The only difference is that the circus is in town.
Try to communicate to the guys is like our preparation, our process, the way that we practice and the way that we play is no different. The only difference is, the circus is coming to town. Other than that, this is another game for us to compete, another opportunity for us to grow as a team, and leading up to a game, there's absolutely nothing different. And so trying to get the guys to understand that the things that we've done for the 22 games prior to this are the same things that we're doing this week, next week, and the remainder of the main thing that I've try to communicate to the.
I can only imagine how difficult that message is to get home and get across, because he can sit here and talk about how it's just another game and you want to treat it like it is, but it's not. There's a reason why there's going to be double the media that'll be on hand in this game. There's a reason why for the longest time there were 2 TV broadcasts of the game. You had the national feed, you had the local feed. There's a reason why this game is the only game that Carolina plays in the regular season that's a legacy defining. And Caleb Wilson, your best player, admitted that. He goes, it doesn't matter what I do individually, unless I win, because it carries weight. It carries that much importance, even in 2026 as the rivalry has evolved over the years. And so he has to say that. He has to communicate that, but it cannot be easy because it's not a different game. There's a different energy in the building when you walk in 90 minutes before tip-off. There will be an energy and a buzz when I get to Chapel Hill today. There will be an energy and a buzz when I walk into the Dean Dome at 9:30 tomorrow ahead of College game day. That doesn't happen for just any old basketball game. I would love to say that that's how it is every time you go to Carolina, and that it's quite simply not, because not every time is Carolina hosting their biggest rival in a rivalry that is the best rivalry we have here in North American sports. So we talked about the circus coming to town, and that's the major difference and what leads up to the game. But he also talked about how he believes his time at ESPN prepared him for where he is right now, leading one of the most prestigious programs in all sports.
No, honestly, it's interesting. I think being a part of the circus for 7 years prepared me for here. And being a part of that and being in front of the camera and having to do a ton of public speaking. It's interesting. Why would I? It was something that I never thought that I would do. When I was in elementary school, middle school, high school, I was in speech therapy class. Struggled with my pronunciation, stuttered all the time, couldn't stand, and still don't like public speaking at all. And so to find myself at work 7 years with ESPN and feel comfortable in front of a camera, I don't know. I think about why those 7 years, and maybe it put me in a position to feel comfortable around you guys.
I've never really thought about it that way, but guess what? When you're working for ESPN, when you're traveling the country, guess what? The spotlight's on you. Guess what's on you when you're the head coach of North Carolina basketball? The spotlight. When you work in television, there's a pressure to perform, to draw ratings, to have people watching you. That's how you make your money. Guess what there is at Carolina? There's a pressure to perform. There's an expectation level that comes here. It's not exactly apples to apples, but it's not apples to oranges either. I thought that was just kind of a unique comparison for him, because he used to be in the media and had to be critical of Carolina when he came to Carolina to, broadcast the game, do game day, so on and so forth. And so, it's maybe in some ways he does feel a lot more comfortable in his shoes after spending 7 years doing the media thing before the calling from Roy Williams to join him on the bench, be his assistant, and now as the guy that is trusted with leading this program, and he's done so for the last 5 years. Now let's get specifically into the Duke stuff. A bunch of questions that he was asked about Duke, and the first one was pretty simple. What does Duke do well?
Yeah, they do a lot of things really well. They obviously, from a defensive standpoint, they've got great length, versatility, size, physicality. Very tough to get to the basket. They do a nice job of defending without fouling. They don't turn the ball over very much, so they're not in transition defense. So, a lot of times you're going up against a set defense. From an offensive standpoint, obviously it's nice to have someone like Cameron who can not only get shots anytime he wants to, but be able to create shots. But just like I said, they've got a number of talented players that can make plays off the dribble, can shoot from three, get fouled, get to the free throw line, and they're a very unselfish team. The ball doesn't stick, 0.5 mentality, and that's why they're one of the leaders in terms of assists in our conference.
And he's not wrong. This is the best team that Carolina has played so far this season. They might not be the most talented team. You could maybe make the case for Kansas when Darren Peterson's on the floor. You could maybe even make the argument for Kentucky before all the injuries ravaged that roster. But this is the best team Carolina has played. They're so fundamentally sound. They do the little things. They compete. They play for one another. I've said this since Duke hired and made John Shire Coach K's predecessor, or successor. This feels and it looks like it's throwback. It's vintage Duke, man. Their identity is on the defensive end of the floor. They're tough. They rebound. They contest shots. They're physical. They make you earn every single thing. And that was kind of what Duke's MO was when they built their powerhouse in the 90s. You know, you had great, yes, offensive players, but Duke was just so sound defensively. That's the vibe I've gotten the last couple years from this Duke team. And that's why they're going to pose the biggest challenge that Carolina has seen so far this season. Well, you know, this is year 5 for Hubert Davis. This is now year 4 for John Shire. We're watching these two coaches grow up before our very eyes, just in the rivalry and outside of it. And Hubert Davis was asked, what does he expect when he faces off against a John Shire-led basketball team?
Well, I mean, he's a terrific coach. His teams are really sound, disciplined defensively. On the offensive end, they share the basketball. They take care of the basketball. They have the ability to be able to score in the paint and also be able to shoot from 3. And so, irregardless of the personnel, it's a team that plays both sides of the floor at a high level and can score in many different ways.
I think if there's one thing you can maybe envy about John Shire is how tough he is with his guys. He coaches his kids, and he coaches his kids very, very hard, and they respond to it. You don't see it usually during the game. Excuse me. You have to usually wait until after the game to see some sort of footage or hear a Cam Boozer or Cooper Flack, whoever it's been, maybe voice how they were challenged by John. But he coaches his kids extremely hard. They respond to it in a positive way. It's why he's, already gone to 2 Elite Eights, why he's gone to a Final Four, won an ACC regular season title, won an ACC tournament title in such a short time span. And so the things that you've seen from Duke previously is what you're going to see tomorrow night. What you've seen from them, though, so far this season, you're going to see from them tomorrow night. This isn't a team that plays really outside of their shell. This is not a team that plays outside of their comfort zone. What you see is what you get just about every time Duke takes the floor. That's a real positive reflection of what John Shire has established himself and the consistency that he expects and demands from his players and coaches alike. A few more sound bites for you guys, and then we'll get out of this edition of the podcast. If you just joined us live on any of the video feeds, we are recapping Hubert Davis's pre-Duke presser. He held this on Thursday afternoon at the Smith Center. Obviously, we know going into this game, the matchup that is going to be the most talked about, the most dissected, is Caleb Wilson of Carolina versus Cameron Boozer of Duke, 2 sensational freshmen, 2 former teammates that are eager, to get after one another. And Hubert Davis talked about that matchup with Boozer and how it's going to impact whoever comes out of this game on top.
Well, again, obviously, Cameron is an amazing player, and you're right. He's, his ability to be able to score in many different ways, obviously around the basket, getting fouled, get to the free throw line, threes, is an excellent passer. So he's one of the best basketball players in the country. But I will say this, it's not just him. There's a reason why that they're 21-1. There's a reason, because they're a really good basketball team and extremely well coached, and they've got a number of pieces that play at extremely high level. And so it's not a matchup between one person. It's a matchup against Duke. And we're very excited about the challenge.
What's been really interesting, to my opinion, or in my opinion, that is, in hearing other people talk about the game, it's that some people think that Wilson and Boozer will be matched up on each other extensively. Some people think that they won't be matched up on each other enough. I find it hard to believe that the two best players on the court won't find their way to one another. I could be wrong. You could see Duke put, Gangba on Wilson, and you could see Carolina put Wilson on Gangba and let other people take a run at the two best players in the game. I just don't think that's the way this thing is going to work out. With as much initiating that these two freshmen do, I just think their competitive drive, their competitive spirit is going to draw them to one another. And there'll be a lot of times where they are matched up. And let's state this for the obvious. And obviously we want Carolina to win the matchup. That's what people are tuning in to watch. They are tuning in to watch these two guys go at it because they're the two best players in the game. Hopefully foul trouble does not play a role in this game. Hopefully they're able to be on the court for, 28 plus minutes apiece, because for the people that don't have any rooting interest in the rivalry, they just want to watch these two guys go at one another. But yes, where there'll be a time where Jaren Stevenson gets Boozer, yes. Or there'll be a time that Vassar gets matched up with Boozer, yes. I think for the majority of the game, Caleb Wilson's going to want to guard Cameron Boozer, and I think Cameron Boozer is going to want to guard Caleb Wilson. Let's move on to a few more sound bites, and then we'll get out of this edition of the podcast. Obviously, this is a new look Carolina team. They feature 11 new players on the roster this year after a year ago. And so Hubert Davis was asked, does he have to really spend some time teaching the guys the importance and the meaning of what this rivalry means to the Carolina fans, the conference, and college basketball as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like our guys have a clear understanding of that because in some sense there's a lot that goes to being and playing here. The games against Kansas, on the road against Kentucky, Virginia, everywhere we go. And so our guys understand that, with every step, every move, the spotlight is on them, and it comes with, criticism, critique, praise on every step. And I think our guys understand that.
Look, man, it's when you come to Carolina, to go to the Final Four, to win a national championship, and to play in this game. That has not changed. It hasn't changed since, I would say, the early 80s, and it will not change moving forward. You come to Carolina to play against Duke. You go to Duke to play against Carolina. It's still the biggest regular season stage that the sport can offer. And the ratings continue to show that year in, year out. And so, no, do they maybe know the history of the rivalry? Maybe not. And look, the further and further we get away from some of the iconic moments, the harder it is going to be for these guys to maybe show with an understanding of that. Well, they know how much this game means to people like you, people like me, and the Duke fans on the other side. And as long as that's prevalent, as long as that's evident, this rivalry, it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. The next cut that we'll play from Hubert Davis, Seth Trimble and Caleb Wilson, they also met with the media on Thursday as well. We're not playing any of that audio. We're just strictly focusing on what the head coach of Carolina basketball had to say. But we've seen Hubert Davis be fired up. We've seen Hubert Davis be emotional going into these matchups, and Seth Trimble kind of made it known he'll feel like Hubert will have something cooked up, maybe extra, in the pregame speech. And, well, Hubert Davis had to come on the microphone and say, I don't cook anything up.
I don't cook anything up. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't cook anything up. Whatever's on my heart, I share with the team, and it's not a sign of like motivation and get them going. I mean, if you can't put on that uniform and be in that locker and run out of that tunnel and play on that floor, and you need me to what do you say, cook them up, then there's a problem here. I have nothing cooked up for Saturday other than to be here.
Yeah, I think that's a little coach speak. I think that's Hubert maybe taking that question a little too liberal or literal, a little tongue-in-cheek there. We know about what happened in the locker room after they beat Syracuse in year one, going into Coach K's final home game. And we know that 2 years ago, the last time Carolina registered a win in the rivalry, just kind of the tone that he set and the practices leading up and the intensity that he had during the game. Maybe he'll have nothing in the pregame, but I think, because this game brings out the best in the coaches. It's not just the players. It brought out the best in Dean Smith, brought out the best in Roy Williams. It brought out the best in Coach K. It's bringing out the best in John Shire. It's going to bring out the best in Hubert Davis tomorrow night. So he may not have some, Vince Lombardi-esque speech in the pregame, but you'll see a different Hubert Davis. There'll be a different intensity with him throughout the day, whether it's when he does the game day stuff from 10 to 12 or when he's on the sidelines from 6:30 to 8:30 trying to secure the biggest win so far for his team this season. The last piece of sound we'll play for you guys, and then we'll get out for this edition of the podcast, is a basketball-specific question. And this is a one that if you really get down into the minutia, if you will, of basketball, we know how important screening is, in the half court especially, to free up, shooters, get defenses lost in action no matter what it is. And this is something I was very critical of a year ago. I thought Carolina, by roster construction, was a poor screening team. And Hubert Davis talked about the role that screening has played in his offense, an offense that ranks third in college basketball in the month of January, or since the calendar turned to 2026, according to Bart Torvik.
Yeah, it's gotten better, but it's not where we need it to be. I mean, at the beginning of the year, our screens struggled, but it's just huge for us, to be able to get an advantage for our guards, getting downhill for Caleb and Henry, Jaron, Zayden, whether it's rolling or popping, being able to get space. And so, every day we talk about setting solid and legal screens. It's just a huge part of our offense. And so it's really big for us. And it's something that we talk about. It's something that we practice every day, something that we teach every day. And it'll be a huge factor for us on Saturday.
It's going to have to be. Carolina's going to have to do a really good job when they're setting their ball screens. They're making it hard for Duke to fight through. They're making it difficult for maybe Duke to communicate. And you got to make sure you're giving yourself some space to get some perimeter shots off, or maybe, come off those screens, roll to the basket, and not be impeded by a defender. This is a very, specific thing. But if you watch this version of Carolina and last year's version of Carolina, it is noticeable. And part of it is Carolina's bigger and they're wider and they're thicker in the hips, and that does help. But there is a technique to it. There's being a committed screen setter. You got to buy into wanting to set physical screens, because that means it's your body that's going to take the bump. And if you're willing to sacrifice your body for the greater good, that speaks to the volume and that speaks to the culture that does exist. So I don't disagree with you, Bert. I think they have screened really, really well for the majority of the season. Hopefully they can screen extraordinarily well tomorrow night and free up some open looks for a Duke defense they're going to contest as many shots as they can. They're going to be right there forcing Carolina to score with a hand in their face. The best way to not have to do that is to screen defenders off of you. Hopefully Bassar, Stevenson, whoever, the guys that are initial screen setters in the offense, they continue to set screens that give this offense a chance to click the way they have clicked since the calendar turned to January about 5.5 weeks ago or so. With that, folks, it is going to wrap up this edition of the podcast. In the meantime, we will direct you guys to the website. That's HeelToughBlog.com. We will have coverage of the game for you this weekend. The game preview will go up on Saturday morning. The recap will more than likely follow on Sunday, with just a lot of things going off after the game on Saturday. Whether it's a win or a loss, will just be a pretty hectic trying to get back to the hotel, record the podcast, on and on and on. But be on the lookout for all that coverage, HeelToughBlog.com, as we continue to take you through the football season or the basketball season. Same thing on the football side of things. Any news breaks, we got you covered. And pretty soon it'll be spring practice for Bill Belichick in his second season in Chapel Hill. If you're an audio listener to the podcast, we encourage you guys to rate, review, and subscribe. That way you don't miss any audio editions of the show. All you have to do is search the Four Corners Podcast and we'll pop up. Like we said, we want you to rate, review, and subscribe. That way you don't miss any editions of the show throughout the remainder of the season. If you consume the podcast on a video platform, the best way to keep up with us, like and follow the Facebook page at Heel Tough Blog, subscribe to the YouTube channel at Heel Tough Blog, or follow me on Twitter at HTB_Josh. The second we go live, you can jump in to be a part of our conversation talking Carolina basketball. That's going to wrap it up, though, for this edition of the podcast. One final programming note. We were able to tape with Andy Bagwell. He's the author of Duke Sucks, and Duke Sucks Part 2 was in the I Hate Leitner Christian documentary. Just a guy that exists to hate Duke. So that'll drop. We're going to drop it on Saturday morning. So an even day of podcast coming your way to get you ready for the greatest rivalry in sports. And then we will be back sometime on Saturday night, win or lose, to recap whatever happens in the Smith Center. Again, that's why we strongly encourage you guys to subscribe. That way you don't miss any editions of the show throughout the remainder of the basketball season. With that, folks, that is going to wrap up this edition of the show. I do want to thank everybody once again for watching and listening. And as always, go Tar Heels and go to hell, Duke.